Hi everyone, this is Bora, dusting off my YouTube channel for my first piece of WoW content. This is actually my first video in what is going to be a series of videos aimed at reviewing all the speed tech that you'll see in Naxx. I wanted to do this series for a couple of reasons. One, because the speedrun scene seems to have quite a bit of traction on Anniversary right now. There's a lot of great guilds, FSP, Eternal, Progress, and quite a few others putting up some really great times going through the AQ40 phase. And with Naxx just around the corner, I wanted to showcase a lot of the tech that you'll be seeing in these Naxx speedruns. I'm also very passionate about speedrunning, so a little bit about me. I am the raid lead of the Horde record holders for the Naxx speedrun called OK Booner. You can find me here. So, OK Booner, we are the top Horde guild. We have a posted time of 44:55 on Era. We still run to this day. There's very little competition. It's basically just us and Fun Police. There's a couple of active Alliance guilds as well. But that's just a little bit about me. So, like I said, very passionate about speedrunning. And I think speedrunning isn't just about, watching the top guilds fight for time. I actually really think that speed tech is something that can be done by players of all skill levels. And it's very fun and rewarding to do so. So, as the image that I had punted off my screen might suggest, the first piece of tech, I'm just actually going to go in chronological order. There might be some tech that I skip over, but in general, I'm going to be going through all the big ones that you're going to see. So this one is called the Anub boom. So just for a little bit of context, I kind of think there's only just a couple of categories of speed tech. There's booms like this, whereby you're stacking a bunch of units and you're blowing it all up. There's things that save travel time. I'm probably not going to talk too much about that. There's also just things that speed up boss kill time. Those are some of the funnest pieces of tech. And then there are skips. So as the name might imply, this is a boom that we're about to see. I'm actually just going to play this speed tech in full speed here, and then we'll take a second to dissect all about it. So I'll show you how to set it up, what everybody's roles and responsibilities are when you pull off this tech, and we'll just talk about things that might go right, might go wrong. So before I actually start playing the video, here's a little scorecard that I've created for this tech. So again, this is the Anub boom. The setup is very easy. It does require a Petri, and so for context there, Warcraft logs only allows you to have 5 Petri flasks in combat. And again, that is Warcraft logs iteration of combat, which means you're not currently fighting anything. That is different than in-game combat. Sometimes combat lingers a little bit in-game. You are not in combat unless you or somebody in your raid is actively fighting a mob. So this does take up 1 of your 5 required Petries, and it's actually a very important concept with respect to Naxx speedrunning. You only have 5. There's probably about 6, maybe 7 things that you might want to choose from, but you're obviously only able to do 5. This does have a low risk of actually causing a wipe. However, I do want to mention that this piece of tech is right at the start of the raid. It's not without its risk. You can definitely have, 1 or, a handful of people die. It's unlikely if executed well, but that's just, something to make mention of just because it's so early in the raid. It is a bummer to lose somebody right at the start. So, obviously when you're pushing for a world record, anything that goes wrong at any point in the raid is a major drag. But, as we talk more about speed tech, and, for those of you who might not be in, uber competitive guilds, but might be looking to incorporate some of this speed tech, you might want to pick and choose which things you start with, and you might want to start further back at the back of the raid. This saves about 30 seconds, and it mostly saves travel time, so I'll actually do a little bit of an explanation there. And is NG required for this? Yes, it is, because with any boom, you're going to want the majority, if not all of your raid using Sapper and maybe some NG and some other NG to actually make your way through the boom. So that's a little overview. I'm going to turn my webcam back on. I'm not a very sophisticated OBS user, so apologies as this is a little scuffed, but we will go through this. So I will actually go a little more into this, but this is not really a conventional start to to a Naxx raid. We actually start the raid at Anub, so I'll go into that a little later when I show you how to set up this tech, but here's the tech. So as we leave Anub, you'll see in the top middle of my screen, there's a Petri icon. So somebody is sitting outside of this room with mobs Petri on them. And as you see, we are about to turn the corner and blow them all up. So the first person has gone in there and they've chow shouted, and the rest of the raid turns the corner with a large sapper. So that's the tech. And just to give you a little bit of context as to why this saves so much time, not only do you kill all the mobs very quickly, but the conventional start to the raid might look a little like this. So this is a, when we were speedrunning, but we weren't doing a new boom. I'll just give you, so this is what the start of the raid might look like. Whole raid is, started at the beginning of the wing, and then you are going into all of these packs and kind of killing them in sequence, and then you're headed to Anub. So just by virtue of having to run out, then into Anub, and then leave Anub, whereas the way that we set up the Anub boom, you're actually starting on Anub, so you only go one direction. So that is a major component of the time save. Okay, so I'm just going to pause this. We don't need to see anything conventional here. So let's go into how we set this all up. So how do we start in Anub's room? The way that we start in a new room, we use a hunter. I think Alliance might use a paladin. And just to be clear, for all of the speed tech, I'm going to be showing the horde perspective, unless there's a piece of tech that we don't do, in which case I'll use a VOD from another stream to showcase that tech. Not to be, an Alliance hater or whatever, but everything on Alliance is brain dead easy. A lot of these setups are extraordinarily easy on Alliance, and they're much harder on Horde. That said, this is one of those things that's actually quite easy on both Horde and Alliance. So this is actually a video of me setting this up. I'm not a natural hunter player, so if my play looks scuffed to you, then it is what it is. But this is just me setting up the tech. So basically, I'm waiting for that skitter pack to walk into me. I'm getting these double skitters. I use a limited invulnerability potion. I send my pet down that hallway there. And as I pull over here, I use a Petri. One thing that I did not do very well here that you should absolutely do, if you are the person setting up any Petri pull, you really want to have /use masterwork target dummy in your Petri macro, okay? So you want to create a macro that uses Petri flask and masterwork target dummy. So this is not a concept dreamt up by me, but just this was told to me by a player much wiser than I. Every time you use a Petri flask, it's almost like doing a very quick feign death on a hunter. So when you feign death on hunter, you'll see the mobs run away from you, and then maybe they come back. So in this case, I got kind of lucky. Now, this doesn't really matter because this is at the start of the raid. This is just set up. This actually is not even part of the raid. It is just part of the setup. So as I'm sitting in this in this Petri, now the things are coming out of the hallway. All these units are stuck onto me. And again, this is not even included in the logs. It's actually something I don't really love about speedrunning. I don't love that Anub is a valid starting point, but that's neither here nor there. You'll see that my entire raid is slipping past me right now. So they're all squeezing by. I'm in this Petri for, another 30 seconds. Everybody has tons of time to get into a noob's room. So once they get into a noob's room, they're going to be checking their consumes, making sure that they've popped everything. They're going to unboon. Then they're all going to use a Mighty Rage potion. All the warriors, obviously, they're going to use a Mighty Rage potion. They're going to Blood Rage, and then they're going to log out. Because then I'm going to have to set up the next part of the tech. So I'm going to go into that now. So this is the second Petri. Again, I do believe that Alliance can use a Paladin here. This is almost virtually the exact same thing, except I'm ending at a different spot. Because I'm ending at a different spot and limited invulnerability potion lasts only 6 seconds, I'm actually going to use Skull of Impending Doom here to make sure that I get to my destination. So I've used Skull, I've used Lip, I'm sending my pet down the hallway, and I'm getting over to the Petri spot. And I'm going to Petri here. And you can see I have my masterwork target dummy. As you saw when I Petri there, everything kind of glued to me because of that masterwork target dummy. So you really want to have that masterwork target dummy in. And now, as you can see, everything is stuck on me. Okay, so that's the first component of the tech. So I'm actually on the hunter. I'm making the login call based on that pat timing. My whole raid is zoning in, fighting a noob while I set this up. Okay. And so we're going to go back to just a video of the actual tech being happening, and we'll just dissect kind of what's happening here. So as we leave Anub, so sorry, I'll just try to fast forward another couple of seconds here. Anub is obviously a very easy fight for any serious guild, especially when you have world buffs and full consumes, all that kind of stuff. So as we leave Anub, something very important here. I've marked the so you're going to want to have 3, and honestly, if you want to be safer, 4 warriors that are all going to have. They're going to save their potion cooldown, so they're not going to use any Mighty Rage or anything like that on Anub. They're all going to save their potion cooldown, and they're all going to use a Challenging Shout lip combo, right? Otherwise known as a Chow Shout, whatever. So what we really want to do here, I've marked the first person with a skull. We want to give that person space as we go through. So I raid lead this raid. I'm calling, give this guy space. He's actually going to lip before he turns the corner, because if he doesn't, if he waits, then some of those things are going to start coming around the corner. You really want a nice tight stack in there. So he's actually going to use a lip before he turns the corner, and then he's going to Chow Shout and he's going to run through. Okay, so we'll see that here. So he's ahead, he's lipped. As you can see on my raid frames, you can actually see I have a little highlight on whoever's lipped. So you'll see he's lipped, he's run through, and now he's Challenging Shouting. Okay, these little spiders have a frontal conal damage. Okay, so these need to be turned away, or you're gonna lose clothies. You might lose quite a few people if you don't turn this away. So it's very important that the person who's doing the Chow Shout uses lip, turns the corner, Chow Shouts, and runs through. Then you're going to have a second warrior with an assigned shout. He's actually going to be targeted on that first person, and he's not actually waiting for the Chow Shout to wear out. He's watching their lip, okay? Because if their lip runs out and the second shout hasn't gone out, that person's going to die. So again, first person has lipped, they've turned the corner, they've Chow Shouted. The second person is watching that lip timer. They see it at 1 second. They're going to then they're going to lip, run through, and Chow Shout. And again, that needs to happen before the first person's lip wore off, or they're going to be getting hit by 30 units and they're going to die. And then the third person is going to follow up the exact same way. In a really fast run, they're probably all dead by the time the third shout's even going out, but you still want that contingency, of course, but you got to make sure that you don't actually just have people like indiscriminately sending shouts and all that kind of stuff because of that frontal conal damage. The other thing is the Venom Stalkers, they charge and they put a poison, okay? So that poison is actually going to be pretty annoying. However, there is a remedy for that for everybody. So what you're going to want to do is use Elixir of Poison Resistance in your, if you're a warrior, you're going to be cleaving here. So in your cleave macro, you want to put /use Elixir of Poison Resistance in your macro. For context, that's honestly a blanket great thing to have in your cleave macro. You actually will not use an Elixir of Poison Resist unless you have something to cure. So in this situation, you can see on my raid frames, there's actually quite a few people with poison on them. So if you're a warrior, you can put it in your cleave. If you're a mage, you can put it in your AE. If you're a priest, you can put it in your Holy Light or Holy Nova, sorry. And then shamans can drop their poison cleanse totems, and I don't play alliance, so whatever alliance people do to cleanse, you can do that. But very important, all DPS, anybody who's actually going to be spamming a button here, whatever button they're going to be spamming, you really want to have that use poison resist in their macro. Okay, so it's very important. And like as you see here, as I play this, nobody dies. It's actually quite comfy. You can see the shouts going out. You can also see that there's like a couple of clothies who just don't want to die in a foolish way here. So they are just using a lip as well. Highly advised if you want to do that. So that's the tech. And as you can see, again, because we started the raid in Anub and we left, we've only headed in one direction. One thing that we could actually do a little bit better here is actually continue dragging these to the next pack. You'll also see that we have the skitters on the far side of the gate. Again, because we do a hunter pull, it's and we only have the 6 seconds of invulnerability. It's actually a little harder to get these far skitters. You still can get them. However, if you were to set this up like with, again, because paladins are so brain dead, they have 18 seconds of invulnerability. You can literally just hit a speed item, pop your bubble, go down the hall, bow shoot, run to these other things, like whatever, throw a dynamite or something like throw a grenade. You have a number of options to get all this stuff on you. You pull it to the Petri spot, Petri with your masterwork targets ME, and you and then you just wait for your squad. The other beautiful thing about this is your Petri Tech doer actually does not die, because while they're in the Petri, somebody comes around, saves them with a chow shout. I would actually not recommend that if you are the Petri, if you're the Petrier, that you actually don't leave your Petri, because you don't want to get out of the Petri and then start getting hit by a bunch of mobs. Just let the whole tech happen, leave. Or if you feel really safe about it, you can drop it and you can use the sapper and contribute to the boom. Okay, so what do we like about this deck? One, we like that, first of all, the booms are always exciting. I mean, it's always, you always love turning the corner and sappering, 30 units and seeing, but if you're like me and you use, classic floating combat text or the in-game floating combat text, you love seeing all these big numbers on your screen. So that's thing one. Thing two is, honestly, it just, because it's a different entry point to the raid, and you start on the boss, it's pretty comfy. But ultimately, you like the time save, you like the ease of the setup. But again, which I kind of said earlier, the thing that you necessarily don't like about this tech is that it is so early in the raid, especially if you're just kind of dipping your toes into speed tech, and you're considering doing this one first. Again, losing somebody this early in the raid is pretty demoralizing for that person. If you have mass casualties, it really kind of sets the raid off on the wrong foot. However, it is very easy to set up. It is very easy to execute as long as everybody does their job. And it saves about 30 seconds. So it is pretty cool tech. Overall, if I was to give it a letter score, I'd give this about a B, just because it is a pretty meaningful time save. And again, the booms are always pretty fun to do. So that's going to be all for this video. That is the Anub boom. The next piece of tech that I'll be going into is the Farlina Petri. So I'll see you all in the next video.